Yes, let me look for that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
I got it.
Hello. Oh, are we good? All right. Thanks. So hello, everyone, and welcome to Making the Slam. This is our info session on the upcoming Grad Slam 2023 competition. My name is Francesca Gaccio, and I'm the coordinator of professional development for graduate students and postdocs at the Division of Graduate Education. So I'll be taking you through Grad Slam today. So as I mentioned earlier, this workshop is being recorded. So in order to keep this recording brief, we will have a Q&A at the end of this presentation. But please share your questions in the chat, and one of my lovely colleagues here who are all on camera because they're troopers will be compiling your questions for us to answer either at the end of the workshop or to compile them and send to folks as part of our kind of FAQ summary. You'll also see that at the bottom of each slide is a QR code to the GradSlam website. So you can go to this page anytime to look at more information, to learn more information about GradSlam, look at resources, and to find out how to get in touch with us. So at the end of this presentation, you will be able to explain what GradSlam is if you're completely new to GradSlam. You'll understand why you should participate and perhaps why your colleagues and your colleagues can participate in GradSlam. You'll be able to identify steps to participate in the competition, and then you'll also find out how to register for training to help you prepare for the competition specifically, but also to get some training for your professional development. So first things first, let's first talk about what GradSlam is. GradSlam is an annual contest to communicate research, and it aims to make research accessible by providing emerging scientists and scholars with the skills to engage the public in their work. So the overall purpose here is to broaden the reach of your scholarly work while developing the necessary skills to make that happen. It is also an annual competition here at UCLA that is produced by the Division of Graduate Education and specifically our Operations and External Relations team. So I just want to briefly let you know whose names and faces you'll be seeing throughout this competition for support and guidance. And they are Ivy Ibuin, Vanya Shalini, Chris Sosa, Araceli Barriga, and Courtney Guevara. You'll be seeing them and communicating with them at different stages of the competition when you participate in GradSlam. Okay, so let's start with the competition structure. So first, you must register to compete before January 27th in order to participate. That QR code takes you straight to the registration form, but also that link is available on the website. So the competition starts with the qualifying round, which is a video submission round. So contestants will need to upload a recording of their 3-minute talk by Monday, by 11:59 p.m. on Monday, February 6th. And the link to that upload will be provided to all the registered participants. So after the qualifying round, our judges will score the video submissions, and the top 20 submissions will compete in 2 semifinal rounds in person on March 2nd. Then from there, the top 10 scores from the semifinal rounds will compete for the UCLA finals in person on March 14th. And then our UCLA champ will move on to the UC-wide finals in May 2023 to compete with 9 other UC champions. So here's sort of the different steps to the competition. So you're probably asking, why should I compete? That's a lot of steps. That's a lot of things and dates to keep in mind. So let me wax poetic to you about GradSlam for a little bit. Well, first, GradSlam is an incredible opportunity to practice your research communication skills and to learn how to explain complex information simply and accessibly, right? Which in any career or industry that requires you to translate complex information to a broader audience, so whether it's research or something incredibly technical, is always a sought after skill. This skill is also particularly valuable when you're writing grant applications, scholarship or fellowship statements, or essays to fund your research, writing one-sheets or articles for public audiences, and even something like doing your own podcast, or if you're interested in sharing your research in that medium, or blog about your research. It also gives you an opportunity to collaborate with your fellow Bruins and learn from them, not just about their research, but also practical strategies for communicating with the public and with different audiences, right? It's also a really great way to raise the profile of your scholarship, get it seen and heard by other faculty across campus, across disciplines, administrators, donors, alumni, and fellow graduate students. That can lead to further collaboration, potentially, or just lead to expanding your networks to help you throughout your graduate journey. And it's also a really good way to promote the kind of valuable work that our graduate students do at UCLA. So at a time when graduate programs are facing a lot of challenges about their relevance or their importance, this is an opportunity for you to show the very tangible and pertinent questions and solutions that you're working on as a scholar and as a professional. So it's not just something that it could be personally gratifying, you're also kind of advancing, right, our values in rigorous and scholarly collaborative research. And of course, it's never too late or too early, actually, to grow your presentation and storytelling skills as part of your professional development. These are two skills that over and over again, employers say are invaluable to any form of communication that they're doing, whether in academia or outside in industry. So you will get dedicated training through small group sessions and workshops. So you will be supported throughout the competition to make sure you are strengthening your skills. But also, if the competition isn't quite your jam, you're still welcome to attend those workshops to develop your communication skills. And finally, if you are so inclined, there's cash prizes. So this is a great opportunity to get rewarded for communicating your research successfully in the form of this stipend. There's some questions about that, about the award structure or the award stipends. Ivy is here to kind of clarify what those might be. So now you're thinking, oh my God, Francesca, this is great. I love it. I'm excited. I'm thrilled. You've convinced me. I want to join. How do I participate? So we'll talk about more of the eligibility criteria, important dates to keep in mind, competition rules, and then we'll also talk about the judging criteria, so you're more familiar about how to tailor your talk for the competition. So first, you must be a graduate student at UCLA, so that means you are registered and enrolled in winter quarter 2023 and in good academic standing. Master's and doctoral students are welcome. You must also register before January 27th. So I say this, even if you're kind of on the fence and you're not really sure if you want to go and participate, register anyway, just to not preclude yourself from competing, right, in case you change your mind. Very low stakes, you just need your single sign-on, your UCLA login, and provide some of the information and you're all set. So to be eligible for the video submission round, there are kind of three requirements. One, you must attend and participate in one small group coaching session. Now, these small group coaching sessions are for registered participants, right? So again, another incentive to participate, to register. You must record your 3-minute research pitch using Zoom. So very similar to what I'm doing now. And you must submit your video submission by 11:59 p.m. on Monday, February 6th. Just a note, this is always a question that comes up. The box folder will turn off submissions right at midnight. And so if you're in the process of uploading at 11:59 and 30 seconds, and it doesn't upload by midnight, it will not upload, right? And so give yourself some grace and some time so that you don't encounter that problem by submitting the video as early as you can. And also part of this, right, is that when it closes, it's at midnight. No one at OER can help troubleshoot until the next day, in which case it might be too late for the submission. So in order to participate in the qualifying round, you need a video submission that consists of one optional PowerPoint slide and a 3-minute max talk. So for those of you who might have participated in previous grad slams, this is a new requirement. You now only have one optional PowerPoint slide instead of 3 for your 3-minute talk. So that's a slight difference if you've participated in the past. In the next slide, I'll talk about the specific requirements and restrictions on your optional PowerPoint slide. So your optional PowerPoint slide can have images and text, but you must use the 16:9 aspect ratio slide. You may also use PowerPoint animation effects, but you cannot have embedded video and audio clips unless it's important to your talk. So for something like embedded video, let's say you want to include it in your slide, you'd want to check with the GradSlam team for approval. Another thing is you do not need to create a title slide. Our GradSlam team will design one that you can use in your submission. If you use the cover slide provided by the GradSlam team, the slide will not be counted against you, right? In addition, your one slide, if you choose to use it, should contain only materials that are pertinent to your talk. So you don't need citations unless absolutely necessary, in most cases, not necessary. You don't need your name on the slide, and you don't need the title of your talk or any sort of like identifying information. Really think of that PowerPoint slide, if you choose to use it, as a space to complement your talk. The next element is the talk itself. Your recorded talk must not exceed 3 minutes. Otherwise, you will receive penalties for every 2 seconds that you go over. So should the presentation go longer than 3 minutes, points will be deducted from the final score, beginning with a 1-point deduction at 3:03, 1 point being taken off every 2 seconds that you continue to speak, right? So in the video submission round, it is really important that you keep it to 3 minutes, and you have basically every power to keep it at 3 minutes since you're the one recording the talk, right? And designing the talk yourself. Remember that you do not need to introduce yourself when you start your talk, so you don't need to do any of that introductory elements because the minute that you talk or that you generate some kind of sound to indicate the beginning of a talk, the 3 minutes starts counting, right? So very important to remember. And also potentially why it's valuable to attend the GradSlam 101 and the small coaching sessions, that these are, if you forget, these are elements that our volunteer judges will be able to give feedback on. Okay. And so within those 3 minutes, there will be categories that our panel of judges will take into consideration when scoring your submission. First, we want to clarify in the video submission, competitors will not be judged on the video recording quality, right? So we won't, our judges are not kind of evaluating how clear or how snazzy the video recording quality is. Instead, you will be judged on the presentation itself, so the talk, and your ability to communicate research to a non-specialist audience, right? So in the content of your talk. So what does that look like? We have 6 categories here that judges will be using to score your presentation on a scale of 1 to 5. And let me add in the chat the scoring sheet, if you'd like to kind of follow along that way. So we have clarity, organization, delivery, appropriateness, intellectual significance, and engagement. So let's start with our first three here. For clarity, the judges are asked to think about this question when viewing your presentation. Did the speaker provide adequate background knowledge to make the talk and the importance of the project understandable? So here you see that the primary concern is the content and the speaker's ability to communicate the value of the research, right? And the context necessary to understand it. Next, our judges will be looking at the organization of your talk. Did the presentation follow a clear and logical sequence? This is about how well you laid out the different steps to the information that you're providing in your talk, right? Is someone who is a non-specialist audience able to kind of follow these breadcrumbs of information for them to be able to understand your research topic? Our judges will also be looking at delivery. They will be asked to judge your use of pace, enthusiasm, confidence, body language, eye contact, and vocal range, right? This is related more to the performance of the talk. So how well you kind of deliver that important information in a way that is intriguing to the audience. Next, they will be asked to judge the appropriateness, and by this, they mean, was the topic and its significance communicated in language appropriate to an intelligent but non-specialist audience, right? And here they're really looking at how well you translate discipline-specific technical information to a broader audience. For example, did you avoid jargon, right? So there might be language that you're super familiar with because you've been studying this, but might not be as common sense or as known to a non-specialist audience, right? Or even if you use it, did you explain what it means in an accessible way? And I think we got a note in the chat here about the link not working. Sorry about that. If someone can provide the link to the judging scorecard, we'll update that in the chat. Thanks for letting us know. Okay. So the judges will also be looking at the intellectual significance of your talk and your ability to communicate the importance of your project to the discipline or a broader context, right? So you'll notice that I'm starting to kind of overlap here with all the judging criteria as they're really evaluating how well you can articulate the significance and the value of your research. So note that, although describing methods is going to be particularly useful in other contexts, overly emphasizing your methods in this kind of competition might not be as important as your ability to communicate why the research matters, right? Or why the research is relevant to your audience. So really think about how you communicate that. Sometimes I think, are there folks here in the humanities? I can't see the participants, but if you do a little wave or emoji, let me know. But I think folks in the humanities, all right, Vanessa. Folks in the humanities and arts might feel like this is particularly challenging because it might not be immediately obvious how your research has, quote unquote, practical significance or relevance, right? But what I want to emphasize here is that significance can also take the form of how is this important to your academic discipline, right? What do we gain from your research in terms of how we understand that particular discipline? So if your topic is a little bit abstract or philosophical, then telling us how understanding this abstract or philosophical concept can help us in our everyday lives can be one way that you articulate the intellectual significance of your research. Another note here is that if you have research that you collaborate in with others, right? So particularly common in the sciences and sometimes in social sciences, you need to communicate the significance of your unique contribution, and you have to identify that contribution, right? Because you're presenting as an individual, you need to articulate your contribution to the kind of the shared research project or research enterprise that you and your lab or you and your team might be involved in. Finally, our judges will be looking at the extent to which your talk piqued the intellectual curiosity of the audience. So did you make it enticing or compelling to learn about your topic? So this is speaking a little bit more to your hook, right? How do you get others interested in your talk? And actually, thinking about your hook for the talk is one of the exercises for GradSlam 101. So if you're particularly interested in how to do that, that's one of the worksheet activities that you'll get to do when you attend tomorrow's GradSlam 101. And of course, the categories that I mentioned here, none of them mentioned visuals. So you will actually not be scored on visuals, right? So that optional PowerPoint slide, if you choose to use it, just a note that that's not part of the judging criteria. So it doesn't mean that you don't have to design it or don't have to maximize that optional slide if you choose to use it. However, it does mean it doesn't also hurt you if you don't end up using a PowerPoint slide, right? And if you're interested in more information about the PowerPoint slide, sign up for the workshop on how to finesse, I forgot the title of my own workshop, finessing your PowerPoint slide, something like that, next week. And of course, the criteria I mentioned is going to be subjective scoring, right? So let's talk about who will be judging your talk. So the judging panels for the qualifying and final rounds will comprise of faculty, academic deans, administrative staff, alumni, and donors. And we expend a great effort to make sure that we select judges that represent the diversity in disciplines as well, right? So that said, you shouldn't assume that there will always be an expert judge evaluating your talk. So while keeping the intellectual significance of your talk is important, always be thinking about the appropriateness, right? Like the other category of the language and the level of detail that you're giving. So if you're feeling like it might be moving a little too technical, really think about your audience in terms of the judging pool. We try our best to get as many judges across the disciplines, but again, right, you can't always expect that they will be your professors or even a professor in your field specifically. Okay, so as I remind you of what you should prioritize in your talks, I think this is a good time to talk to you about how you can get training and support for your professional development and to prepare for the competition. So we have 3 virtual workshops to help you get started. So I've been talking about GradSlam 101, how to get started, and it's an excellent way to start things off. At this workshop, you'll go through exercises and activities to help you brainstorm and draft your talk with feedback and tips from former GradSlam competitors. Will facilitate the activities. So that's tomorrow at noon. This is an important first step to make sure you're off in the right direction. So I strongly recommend signing up for this workshop. And I'm putting the link to RSVP to that workshop in the chat. Next, we have a presentation skills workshop to help you brush up on your presentation skills so that you can connect with your audience. And that's happening next Tuesday at noon again with David Fuller from our UCLA CHR Campus Human Resources. And from personal experience, I took workshops facilitated by David, and They're always so valuable and super helpful. So if you need a little bit of a refresher on your basic presentation skills, highly recommend David's workshop. And finally, we have a workshop on designing your PowerPoint slide, just called Finesse Your Slide. Finesse Your Slide. That's a workshop that I'm facilitating. We will talk about best practices for slide design if you choose to use a PowerPoint slide for your talk, and how to manage and maintain your audience's attention so that your slide is a complement to the talk rather than a distraction. And I'm putting the link to RSVP to that workshop in the chat as well. And really, any of these workshops will equip you with tools that can take you beyond GradSlam. So learning how to come up with a hook in GradSlam 101, learning about basic presentation skills or brushing up on them, and then also some visual design for content. These are all really valuable skills to start to develop while you're in grad school. These workshops are open to all graduate students, regardless if you're competing in GradSlam. So tell your friends, drag them to these noontime workshops. They're really low stakes because they're going to be virtual. And I think you'll get a lot out of strategies and tools to add to your professional development. They're good complementary training to class presentations, because you have to do them, or conference presentations that you might be giving in the near or distant future. So it's always helpful to have some of these skills in your toolkit. So if you are interested in competing, the one required workshop that you must attend in order to qualify is the small group coaching sessions. So make sure you attend one of these dates. So there are several dates to kind of accommodate the schedules, the competing schedules that graduate students might have. At these small group coaching sessions, you will receive feedback from guest judges using the scoring criteria. So this is a really good opportunity to learn more about how to tailor your talk to the 6 categories you will be scored in. If you're registered for the competition, you will get the links to register for these events. So again, another incentive to register. Finally, you can check out more information about GradSlam on our website. From there, you'll see the video submission instructions in more detail. You can also read up about best practices for recording your slide, and I'm putting the link in the chat to the GradSlam page. Resources for presentation skills. If you want to refresh on the competition schedule and a bit more details, there's also links to last year's competition competitors, last year's competitors talks. So if you want to get a sense of how it's gone in the past, I know that they were operating on a different rules, so they would have 3 slides. So just keep that in mind. This year you'll be limited to 1 slide as part of the UC-wide rule change. But it's a good way to kind of just get a sense of how long or how quick 3 minutes can go, and to just kind of get a sense of what it was like for the in-person component, right? So all really useful guides if you want to learn more about GradSlam. We also encourage you to ask your questions. I know some of you probably have already reached out to us about the workshops. So if you're unclear about any aspect of GradSlam, please contact us, send an email to gdevents@grad.ucla.edu. You can also follow us on Instagram, although if you have specific questions, don't DM us, go through the email so we can see it right away. But also follow us on Instagram and our hashtag so you can see the competition as it unfolds. And maybe if you don't join this year, you'll join next year. So let's turn to questions in the chat that I might not have covered yet.
We've gotten quite a few questions about, or a few questions anyway, about the new rule and the one slide and using animation in the slide this year. So that, again, as Francesca has mentioned, the one slide rule is new for this year. And you are allowed to use animation, like PowerPoint animation, in your one slide. Now, having said that, we don't want people to stress out or overthink this one slide too much, because as she also mentioned, visuals are not getting scored this year. So keep it simple, keep it clean is what I would recommend for your one slide. You don't want your slide, but you want the audience to pay attention to your talk, not to what you're showing on the screen, because ultimately this competition is about your communication and your presentation skills, not what you're showing on the screen. So my one thing to stress is, yeah, keep it simple, keep it clean. If you're gonna, we encourage you to use that slide, but you want it to enhance and not to take away from your talk. You don't want your slide to distract people by having all of these things popping up on the screen because you're animating different aspects or different things on there to, to add to your talk. You want them to pay attention to what you're saying and not what's going on up there. So if there's anything you walk away with, I think that's the one thing I'd like to stress to all of you, like keep it clean. So, and then we have a question about how involved with the faculty advisor we register would need. They actually don't need to be involved at all in the process. So unless you need, you need their opinion about your presentation and you want them to like help you finalize things, but we don't, with the actual competition itself, we actually don't involve them. If you make it to the final competition, they'll be invited to attend, of course. And then also for our first, second, third, and then audience choice winners, we have a dinner in the spring, and we invite the faculty advisors to that dinner with the dean of graduate education, as well as the deans of the corresponding schools of the winners. So, but yeah, they don't actually, we ask for that information, but they're not actually involved in the competition, if that makes sense. Let's see if there was another question.
About the judging criteria.
Yes. Same judging criteria used for all rounds. So through the preliminary video round and then semifinals and final. And then same criteria are used for the UC-wide competitions.
And we should mention that it's different judges for every round. Okay. So different people are going to be using the same judging criteria. So it's not like you're going to burn out like with the same judges. We will also kind of rotate our judges. So new people are evaluating and scoring.
Yes, we are recording tomorrow's GradSlam 101 workshop, as well as the 2 workshops next week. The only ones we do not record are the small group coaching sessions. Okay, any other questions that we can ask? So yeah, I mean, also besides the whole one slide thing, we do highly encourage you to register for the competition. As Francesca said, registering is low stakes. So you're not required to submit anything at this point. If anything, just don't exclude yourself from participating, register, because if you decide to do it, then that's the most important step, is that you register in there. Do we need to bring a slide to the coaching session? No, because it is optional, as we mentioned. So if it's not ready, then don't worry about it. You don't need to have it finalized or ready by the small group coaching session. As long as you have a draft of your actual presentation that you can share during the session, that's what we're expecting. The slide, if you have it, great. If you don't stress out too much about it. Okay. Dress code for the video round? No, you just want it, we'll send out another email before the video deadline that has suggestions on what you can wear. But of course, just keep in mind that you want to keep it simple up top and not wear any distracting patterns or anything like that. For the final and the semifinals, there is, especially for the final, we do have a dress code because we live stream and we record the final. So it's business formal essentially for the final. For the semifinals, I would say it's similar. So business formal. Registration form is on the website. So if you go to the website, there's a big button up at the very top that says register, and click on that. It should take you to the form. Oh, and Vanya just dropped it into the chat. Are we allowed to attend multiple coaching sessions? Actually, we should clarify that on the website. We ask that we have spots for as many people who register. So if possible, we ask that you only attend unless for some other reason you're unable to attend or need to leave the session that you're in super early and can't finish, then we'll make room for you in another session. But one session per student is what we make room for in our small group coaching sessions. And again, that depends on how many people register, but for now, we definitely have an abundance of spots available in each of the sessions. I will say we have at least 20 in each session available. Let's see, anything else? Any other questions that we can answer while we're here, and we're a captive audience for you all? So yeah, I mean, we're very excited about this year and adding another in-person component to the competition. So if you competed last year, we only had the video round and then the final round. So this year we've added an in-person semifinals, which was actually the format. We had in-person semifinals a few years ago. So will we receive a separate link for coaching session registration? Yes, you will. If you've registered for the competition, you will receive that link. Let's see. Yeah, Thomas has a comment on here regarding the one slide rule. Yes, I understand that. If the rule change came from UCOB essentially, and there was a big discussion between all the campuses actually about the number of slides that that students should be allowed to have in the presentation, and the ruling ultimately came down to the fact that people wanted animation to be allowed in the slides. But having said that, because sometimes animations or other transitions or embedded audio or GIFs can cause technical issues, like depending on how large the file is, it can cause glitches in the equipment. UCOP decided that we're only limiting to one slide. And to make it easier for our campus champion, we are adopting this new rule, because otherwise, if we kept with the 3-slide rule, if you advance to the UC-wide, you would have to change your presentation to become one slide. And that we feel that we want to be consistent with that rule so that it's easier for our campus champion to move on to that next round. Otherwise, you would have to just change your presentation around. But we do know this is a significant change from last year, especially if you've competed before. So but this is something that we feel like we need to adopt just because the UC-wide rule is using this rule. So are we allowed to change our presentation from round to round? No, the answer would be no. You would need to keep your presentation pretty much the same from round to round. It needs to be the same one. Yeah, yes, Thomas, we'll see how it goes. I'll be interested to see how the other campuses handle this as well. Most of the campuses are adopting this new rule. Some are not, but most are. So I'll be interested to see how this pans out with the other campuses as well, and how it works with the competition. I'm sure we'll hear a lot of feedback once everyone has gone through their competitions this year.
Yeah. we're all together for the ride for this rule change.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, I'm very interested to see how this all works.
Sorry, Ivy, can I add something about
Yeah.
the slide? I just want to emphasize, as Ivy did earlier, that the slide is optional for a reason, and you do not get scored on it, which means that the judges are not going to really look at your supporting evidence on the slide. What they're going to be more interested in is how you articulate your research and whether that articulation is understandable. That is what your focus should be. And if the slides provide further clarification to that, great. If it doesn't, I would not stress too much about it.
Yeah. And I would say that that's one of the kind of exercises that will, if you attend the Finesse Your Slide workshop, that's one of the primary considerations we'll really be thinking about is the purpose of the slide and the purpose of the elements that you include in the slide. I will not be offended at the end of that workshop if you decided the slide is not for you. So I think if you want some kind of sounding board or some considerations to help you decide how to use the slide or not use the slide, you're welcome to register for that too, for that workshop. And then I think, Ivy, we have a question about changing things around in the slide.
If possible, yeah, do not change your PowerPoint from round to round. I mean, if you must make minor adjustments to it, sure, yes, but we ask that you keep it the same for the most part.
Yeah, Divya, it's a really good point. Yeah, there's a little bit of forethought happening here, how your video submission round right, and presentation
Right.
would have to translate that in an in-person modality. And I think Linessa has a question about the style, the presentation style, but not necessarily the content.
That's a good question. I don't think we've really. This has really, I mean, for transparency, this is only like the second grad slam that I've gone through. So I can't speak to that if we've allowed, I'll have to get back to you on that one because I'm not sure if we've allowed people to change like this scripting per se is what you're saying, like the words in your presentation, if that's okay before. I would assume yes, but I'll have to get back on to you on that one. Any other questions that we can answer for you all? So again, the most important dates to remember: registration deadline, the 27th, next Friday. And then video submission deadline is February 6th. And to enter the preliminary video round, you must have attended the small group coaching session. And those are happening the week of the 30th. So, and you will receive the links to register for those sessions after you've registered for the competition. Okay, so we're sending those out after you're registered, and we're checking the registrations every day and trying to send those out once we see people are registered in there. Yes, you can. Like we will for those who advance to the semifinal round, we compile the feedback from the judges and send that to you as quickly as possible so you can improve on your presentation. If you know, some of them will actually have comments about certain things in your presentation that you might want to consider. So we should have said that earlier, that for those who advance to the semifinals and finals, you will be receiving the feedback from the judges as soon as we can get them out to you so that you can review what was said about your presentations. Divya, we will recheck to make sure that we send those links out to you. Okay. You might, please make sure you check like all your junk folder or whatnot, because it is coming, the email should be coming from grad events at grad. So just try to make sure you check all your inboxes, but we will check on those for you. And then again, video submission deadline, February 6th. If you are in the top 20 from that video round, you will need to present in person on March 2nd, which is a Thursday, and that will happen at the Young Research Library main conference room. So we'll have 2 rounds, and we ask for your preference in the registration form between the 10 a.m. round. It's, if selected, what your first choice is between the 10 a.m. round versus the 2 p.m. round. So we'll have 2, and the semifinalists will be split evenly between those 2 rounds. And then we will have the final competition on Tuesday, March 14th, and that will be at the California Nanosystems Institute auditorium. Okay. And then, as Francesca mentioned, you know, we have the cash, the awards for the top 3 finishers and audience choice winners in the final competition. So 5,000 for first place, 3 for second, 2 for third, and then 1,000 for audience choice. But I should also say, like, for the semifinalists who don't advance, they will receive, for the finalists who don't place, they'll receive $500. Semifinalists who don't advance to the final round will receive $300. And then everyone who completes the preliminary round, meaning they registered, attended small group coaching, and submitted the video, you will receive a $50 gift card. So that's just something to sweeten the process. And please, if, like Francesca mentioned in the chat, humanists and social scientists, if you have colleagues who you feel like would do great in this, we would love to have them compete. We are always looking to have more participation in those 2 areas, especially. So please encourage your fellow students to apply. Tomorrow's GradSlam 101 workshop will be facilitated by GradSlam alums. So, and one of them being the 2017 winner, who was also the UC-wide winner that year. So if you'd like to pick their brains, it would be a great workshop to go to just to talk to them about their experiences and GradSlam and what they got out of the process. So, and again, like Francesca mentioned too, do keep in mind that these alums had the different slide rule, but again, and as I've mentioned, don't stress out too much about the slide at this point. Really focus on your presentation and your talk. This is what the competition is about, your talk. So, but otherwise, if there are any other questions, please, you know, we'll stay on for a few more minutes. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending today's workshop, and we hope to see you tomorrow and next week at the other workshops. And if not, please register, encourage your friends to do the same, your friends and colleagues to do the same, and we hope to see you in the competition and your video. So thank you again, and if you have any other questions, please email us. gdevents@grad.ucla.edu. So I'll drop that in the chat, but otherwise, have a good rest of your Thursday, everyone. Thank you.